Well, hey, Lynn.
I think we should just stare at each other in silence like we just did for a minute.
That would make for a great podcast.
I was like, you first, no, you first, no, you first, no, you first.
Come join us on Fundraising is Quiet.
Ooh, ASMR.
For fundraisers, I love it.
We take paper clips off of checks.
Hey, friends, thanks for joining us today. Fundraising is indeed funny, and as you can tell, Lynn and I are already into it and giggling already.
This is a good one.
This is a good one.
I mean, like, I feel like this episode is like philosophically enlightened.
Oh.
I've got a topic that I have been smashing around for.
Spell that for me.
Smashing around for approximately. Well, pre-pandemic, I was doing this at conferences and such. I'm going to make you play a game.
Oh, I like games.
See, yeah. At least that makes two of us. So, and it's funny because, you know, we live in the world of fundraising.
And fundraising's funny.
Fundraising's funny, but also words matter.
Words
like
matter.
Smish, mosh, smash.
Smish, mosh, smash.
Or today, my friend John said cattywampus, and I hadn't heard that in a while.
I love that word. Cattywampus.
Cattywampus is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been thinking a lot about the words that we say and, you know, this whole idea of a culture of generosity, a culture of philanthropy. Mm-hmm. Everybody throws around, you got to have a culture of philanthropy.
Yeah.
You got to have a culture of philanthropy. And I'm like, I did not know what that was until I got into fundraising. Of course. I didn't know what soft ask meant either, or Libent or Cybent, but I still don't know what soft ask is. I think it's like, a small digression. You know, in other countries, they don't do like easy over easy, eggs hard, but they don't do that. They just do eggs.
How do you want your eggs?
You say in America, you don't get choice. You get eggs. You're not on that medium hard, medium soft, poachy. It's just trough of eggs like normal people. If you're lucky, you get some beans with them.
Wow.
I've been in England lately.
Okay.
You get a toad in the hole if you're extra lucky.
I love a good toad in the hole.
Toad in the hole.
I love a good toad in the hole.
All this to say that, so I've been flustering around with this for a while, and, you know, both you and I are big proponents of diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging,
Absolutely.
Justice.
100%.
Right? And this kind of touches on that in terms of, you know, in fundraising, we deal with lots of money, whether we like to or not.
Yeah.
Money's an interesting thing. It makes you funny, as my dad would say.
Yeah.
And the way we talk about our donors, you know, low-hanging fruit, all that stuff, but also this culture of philanthropy.
Yes.
Right? That they're philanthropists, the philanthropy top 50 and all that stuff. I don't know. Let's play a game.
Okay. I like games.
Play along. So close your eyes.
Okay. Eyes are closed.
Basically an exercise in trust here.
I do not do trust falls.
Oh, okay. I try not to do falls because I feel like they would be ouchy.
Yeah.
And so
there's that.
So you got your eyes closed.
Yes.
And I want you to picture a philanthropist.
Okay. Got it.
Anyone in, you know, your choice.
A philanthropist.
A philanthropist.
Yes. Okay.
Describe them using adjectives. Describe for me a philanthropist. Keep your eyes closed because it helps your juices flow, don't you think?
Is this like a Mad Libs kind of thing?
I don't know, but I did like Mad Libs on road trips when I was a child.
Yeah.
We always got a new one, and I was so eloquent. I had an older brother, and I was so eloquent at age 9 through 11 that I would use words like fart and burp.
Wow.
That's, yeah. Hey, yeah. I scored a perfect verbal on my SAT.
There you go. So describe a philanthropist.
That one. Starts with P, ends with ist.
So I immediately go to wealthy, of course.
Okay.
I go to older. So if I'm like picturing, like visually picturing.
What you do, man.
I mean, philanthropist, I just always kind of go to the Monopoly character with the monocle and the top hat and the, you know, which of course makes me go male. Urban, like a big city. So like tycoon.
Penthouse apartment tycoon.
Yeah, exactly. Drives a fancy car.
Park place.
Park Place, yeah, all of that.
Bless them.
Bless their hearts.
So that's what a culture of philanthropy gets you, a bunch of philanthropists.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
So now we're going to play again. Different round, different word.
Yes.
I want you to picture a generous person.
Ah, okay.
Hit me with your best shot.
Well, see.
Fire away.
Yeah, I mean, now this is where my bias comes in, having spent as much time as I have working with individual donors. And you say generous, and I am thinking of, I'm thinking of Grandma Mabel, who sends in $25 whenever she's asked to help provide food for a family. I'm thinking of generous. I'm thinking of
Need some adjectives.
Kindness, thoughtfulness.
Having a tough time with that physical description, aren't you?
Well, yeah.
Much less monocle.
Much less. Right. I don't have a visual from a game that I played most of my life, right? Yeah. Yeah.
You automatically went to a female, too.
I did. It's true.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. I do this experiment a lot in conferences because I want people to start thinking about generosity versus philanthropy. Not that they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
But one, generosity is more inclusive.
Yes.
Anybody can be generous.
And indeed are.
All the time.
Yes.
Time, talent, and treasure I can give you.
Yes.
And I'm generous.
Yes.
But not everybody can be considered a philanthropist.
I hear you.
Not
right.
as inclusive.
Yeah.
If you asked Grandma Jenny if she was a philanthropist, she'd say, no, I just do what I can.
Exactly. Yes, exactly right. Yep.
And even thinking about the culture of philanthropy, the philanthropy top 50 or there are people that give away healthy sums of money.
Sure.
Who don't consider themselves philanthropists.
No, exactly.
6 figures even.
Yeah.
And so the question is, and the question becomes for us, do we value generosity or do we value philanthropy at our nonprofit organizations? I mean, we even have the Chronicle of Philanthropy. We don't have the Chronicle of Generosity.
Right.
But if a corporation does a really good thing, so say Apple donates 10,000 laptops, are they philanthropists or are they generous? Are they both?
Well, we'd probably recognize them at some event as, the philanthropist of the year. So
nothing like an acrylic plaque to make you feel warm and bubbly inside.
With a $500 dinner that you can only claim the total amount minus the fair market value.
Right, which is $283.54 in Vegas. In other places, it's like $12 and a coupon to Sizzler.
Right.
But all that to say is this idea of generosity. And when we think about our industry even, we laud these big billionaires and millionaires who give big gifts. But did you know, and I'm sure you did, but I'm a nerd for facts. You're a nerd for data. Not that data and facts are...
I was just going to say, tomato.
Data. So I'm a nerd. And did you know that in America, those beneath the poverty line, that's less than $19,000 a year, give on average 3.7% of their income or their worth away.
I did know that, actually, yes.
And those billionaires up there, those at the top percentile, they give on average 0.8%.
Yep.
That philanthropy top 50, 0.8%.
So when we look at it as a percentage of the whole,
no bueno.
It's different.
It's different. The poorer you are, the more generous you are in this country.
It's interesting. Yeah.
And even if you do an experiment, they've done experiment after experiment where they take someone like a person who may not be housed at the moment, and they give them a $20 bill or they give them a meal. They immediately go and share it with others. And someone would say, well, that's not why they're not wealthy. And then a wealthy person, you give them the $20 and they're like, how many ways can I put this in my bank account?
Right. And invest it. And yeah.
And so, and that's not true. We're using some generalizations here.
It's Mary Poppins. Tuppence. No, really.
Right.
The whole scene with the bank's children, they take them to the bank and they want to invest the tuppence properly invested in the bank. Right. Remember that? And they want to give it to the bird woman to feed the birds. Yeah.
Exactly. So, we really need to think about this when we talk in our communications about philanthropy. When we use the word philanthropist. And it's interesting because and we'll probably do a whole episode on women and generosity.
Right. Yeah.
But this whole idea of that immediately when you thought generous, you went female. Mm-hmm. 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 And that, or at the end when you were talking about a philanthropist, someone who wants their name on a building. Right. Most women don't put their names on buildings. Yeah, right. It's not a very female trait.
It's interesting.
I'm trying to think of a snack that would go with generosity. Like what would be the generosity?
100 grand bar?
No, that's the philanthropist bar. Take 5 might be
there. We go.
Or a whatchamacallit.
I do love a good crispy whatchamacallit.
The crispy whatchamacallits.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break. We're going to go hunt down a whatchamacallit back in 1984. And we'll talk a little bit more about this idea of inclusive language and exclusive language here when we get back. And we're back.
We are.
Just digging a whatchamacallit out of my teeth. A thingamabopper, a dinglehopper. No, that's mermaid. It's
yes, that's where I was going. We are full of Disney references today.
It's galore.
Right.
You want thingamabobs?
I got 20.
But who cares?
No big deal.
I want more.
I want to be where the donors are.
I want to see their checkbooks.
Actually, oh my gosh, I had completely forgotten this. Somewhere on my old blog from years ago we will find it. We will post it in the show notes. I totally did a whole version of this song that was I Want to Be Where the Donors Are.
Wow. Was that the year you were single? Or
I'm getting the You Are Such a Dork look. I was pretty proud of it, actually. It was pretty funny.
It wasn't the dork slot.
It was pretty funny. I was pretty proud of it. We'll post it in the show notes and we'll let others judge.
No judgment, first of all, because we love everything about you, Clay. Second of all, I once had some people who enjoyed Donor Relations Guru. I kind of coined the word FASK.
Yes.
And they wrote a whole Dr. Seuss poem about fasting.
It does sound like a Dr. Seuss villain, doesn't it? The FASK.
Right? The FASK. I have to find that and share that with our audience.
Well, now I'm going to Lewis Carroll, Beware the FASK, my son.
Right. So we were talking about generosity and philanthropy.
We were,
and
indeed.
Even the words.
Yes.
One has a lot of letters, one has a little less letters, but still a lot of letters.
Yes, indeed.
And so...
well, one of the things in recent years that has really, really gotten me excited, and this is why I say it is one of the most exciting times ever to be a fundraiser, because I certainly remember when our technology included carbon copies and 3x5 cards.
Whiteout.
In
the bottle.
Yep. Back in the day when we used to get prospect research and it would come in 3-ring binders,
Yeah.
And every 6 months you'd have to replace them. Anyway. To me, one of the most exciting pieces of research that I have seen and been fortunate to be a part of is the work that Drs. Adrian Sargent and Dr. Jen Shang are doing at the Institute of Sustainable Philanthropy on philanthropic psychology. And they offer a whole course, a certificate in philanthropic psychology. And there's a whole lot in it, right?
Is that psychologists who analyze fundraisers or
no?
No. I thought what's wrong with you? You work at a nonprofit.
No. Drs. Adrian Sargent and Dr. Jen Shang are probably the leading researchers in philanthropy.
I love them both. I just was trying to be a funny because I thought, wouldn't it be great if they did a psychological study on fundraisers and what was wrong with us?
Well,
yes.
I mean, just me would be like a whole. Yeah. Anyway, digress.
Yes.
So one of the things that the psychological literature brings forward is whenever you survey people and ask people in scientific surveys, and this is across disciplines, every time you ask people to describe themselves, the key words that they use, there's like 9 adjectives that continue to come up every single time in every different survey.
I'm not going to make you list them all.
I'm not going to list them all.
But I bet we have one that we were just talking about.
Generous is at the top of the list. Some of the words that I actually wasn't thinking of this when you did the game with me, but kind, generous, thoughtful, right? These are the words that people use to describe themselves. These are the identities that how people see them.
They don't say they're a philanthropist. Nobody walks around and goes, "Hi, I'm Lynn, I'm a philanthropist."
Right.
But everybody aspires to be generous, hopefully.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
And, it's so interesting because we're all, I think a lot of people are chasing the big dime, the big dollar, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
But gosh, wouldn't it be better to just be kind?
Right. Wouldn't it be better just to be thoughtful or
right,
generous? And in the implementation of philanthropic psychology, and see, there's even that name, right? Philanthropic psychology, right?
It's a psychology of generosity.
Yeah, exactly.
Wouldn't that be more approachable though? Like, say I'm getting into the field and I want to study the psychology of generosity, not philanthropic psychology.
Right.
204.
Right.
That's definitely a 200 or 300 level class.
Right. Right. Yeah. But in the studying of why people give, it's
generous.
It's part of their identity. It's
generous.
Part of who they are.
Well, yeah.
And I see myself as a generous person, despite what others may or may not say about me.
Right. And I think people aspire to be generous.
Yes.
And I wonder, and this goes back to your philanthropic psychology, if you had to pair generous versus wealthy, would people pick, I'd rather have a lot of money or I'd rather be generous?
Yeah. Interesting.
Like, not that those are binary.
How do you want people to remember you?
Right.
Do I want people to remember that I was wealthy? Do I want people to remember that I was a kind person who cared?
Right. And I just think, those two things, while not mutually exclusive, they say different things. In philanthropy, in fundraising, we have a lot of behaviors that are exclusive.
Right.
Giving societies, for example.
Uh-huh.
What a way to exclude people that don't match the description.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But can't we work on being more inclusive as a profession?
Sure.
So which word is more inclusive, generosity or philanthropy?
Exactly. Generosity.
So say, for example, Grandma Jenny that you were talking about, or Auntie Pam.
Auntie Pam.
Yeah. Auntie Pam, she loves magazines.
Yes.
And she gets her magazine subscriptions. And then after she reads the magazine, she brings them down to the local nursing home and gives them her month's worth of magazines. Southern Living, Taste of Home, Better Homes and Gardens, quality publications. She now includes that new one. It's one from the South that I can't remember. It's like a step beyond Southern Living.
Okay.
And so she.
Guns and Gardens.
That's it.
Love Guns and Gardens.
That one scares me. Like, I don't think I should have it mailed to myself.
It's such a great magazine.
I know, but also, So she goes and donates her magazines down to the nursing home. And then in the spring, thanks to Southern Living, she has some nice florals. And she brings them some flowers from her garden as well.
Right.
And those tomatoes that never stop growing. The cucumbers, you grow one cucumber plant. And you're in cucumbers for the year. Is she not a good person because she's not a philanthropist?
Right. Yeah.
She's generous.
Right.
She's kind.
Yeah.
And she's helping people read about guns and gardens. And who doesn't want that in their lives? Right.
Right.
So what's our punchline today?
I am 100% with you, and here to encourage all of us to celebrate the generous more than the philanthropist. Now, let's acknowledge the hardship. Let's acknowledge that it takes work.
To change anything?
It takes work to change. It takes work to value it. And it takes work to move from the mindset of we have to go after the wealthy donors whose names are on every building to, we need to engage the generosity of the people who believe in our mission. Because you do have to build infrastructure. You do have to change your processes and your systems to support that. But the first step is changing the mindset and
the language,
the concept and the language. Because if we name it, then the attitude follows.
Like, what if we just changed some of the content in our publications to read, instead of philanthropy, we said generosity.
Right.
It also would make our language more approachable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And more human, centering on, that you're a generous human rather than, oh, wow, your philanthropy inspires.
Right.
I don't know that it does, but
right.
Generosity makes me feel good and makes others around me feel good as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
The power of just saying to a donor, Lynn, you are one of Acme Charity's most generous donors.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite phrases in an acknowledgement is, I'm humbled by your generosity.
Love that. Yeah.
Right?
That.
Like that kind of gets to the heart.
Yeah.
Of what we're saying. And I'm sure we're going to do an episode all about thank yous.
I'm sure we will.
And acknowledgements.
Who, us? No.
I mean, I can't do a podcast and not talk about thanking your donors, right? So
changing our words, changing our concepts, right?
Yeah. And so we love for our community to join us at fundraisingisfunny.com.
Yep.
Maybe they could show us examples of where they've replaced, philanthropy with generosity.
Sure.
Thinking along the lines of how they can make their language more inclusive in general.
Yeah.
And really kind of wandering through that process of change of how do I have everybody feel included in this wild world of fundraising?
Exactly.
And what does that look like and what does that mean?
I encourage everybody to take a look at Giving Tuesday's recent report measuring the generosity ecosystem. And Woodrow Rosenbaum, who's the head of the Giving Tuesday Data Commons, really spearheaded that and has been out there championing it. It's just a phenomenal report. And the long and the short of it is, right, if we just measure dollars, if we just measure the things that we typically measure, like tax returns, then we miss seeing the number of donors that are active in so many ways, in volunteering, in giving things, in giving dollars, and that people see themselves as generous, as thoughtful, as engaged, and that as a place of, right, really acknowledging what is happening. Because I'm willing to bet too that people are more generous with your charity than sometimes you notice, right?
Well, and I think, I always say that the biggest ask of a person isn't their money, it's their time.
Yeah.
And we often forget that. I'd much rather give you $50 than 3 hours at a, seated banquet eating airline chicken.
Yeah.
I'd much rather, here's $50.
Yeah.
Please.
Indeed.
Here, use it for your mission. Please don't make me eat that airline chicken.
So share those times with us of generosity you've experienced, how you acknowledge generosity.
Right. And also just the ways that maybe you've made your nonprofit's language more inclusive.
There we go. Exactly.
That'd be awesome. Exactly. Well, we look forward to hearing from you, and we will talk to you soon on a future episode of Fundraising is Funny.
See you soon, everybody.